Hello everyone, Matt from Model Minutes here, and welcome back to the workbench for another unboxing. Today I'm taking a look at the Airfix RAF Red Arrows Hawk construction kit in 1/72 scale. So join me as I get stuck inside the box and see what this kit is like. So this is one of those kits that was a limited edition June 2026 Lidl UK kind of exclusive product, which sort of fit around Father's Day here in the UK, which kind of goes with this illustration on the box here, which lends itself back to the older days of Airfix where they had this kind of art style. We've got this, I quite like it actually, it's rather cool. It's a digital drawing, supposedly created by an actual person and not AI generated as some people suggested, which lends itself to that older style. This particular kit is A68227 and is suitable for those aged 8 years and older. If we flip over to the back, you can see we've got the Red Arrow Hawk on here. Full colour painting instructions with decal placements. It tells us the actual aircraft that this represents down the bottom, and that there are cartograph decals included. So cartograph makes quite good quality decals, so I don't think there'll be any problems with the decals. And then we have 4 different paints here. You'll notice though that I think there should be like a white sort of stripe on the lower side of the aircraft, which would have been typical of that type of time period, but it doesn't seem to have that one included in the kit, which is a little bit annoying. This does have a holographic sticker which says it's officially licensed, which is pretty cool. And then over on the right hand side we have some tooling information. So I'll talk about that briefly now. Airfix says that this is a 2011 tooling, but there is a little bit of inconsistency online because ScaleMates actually seems to believe that this particular tooling was first released in 2008. So I'm not entirely sure what the specifics are there. Maybe this is a misprint, or maybe there is a slight variation upon the tooling, but it would seem to me there's a little inconsistency online, but it's from around that time period. So it's not one of the oldest kits in the Airfix range, so it should be fairly up to modern standards. We do have some information on the thin edge here about the actual Hawk, as well as a little indication of the different paints and things, and a skill level. Airfix thinks this is a skill level 1, so it implies that it should be easy to build. On the other thin edge, we have some safety information, and then the shelf edges is just the same as we've already seen on the front. I don't have this open yet, so I will have it open shortly so we can have a look through the box. One thing probably worth mentioning is that this is technically a gift set, but Lidl was advertising these in the shop as starter kits. So I would take it with a pinch of salt what Lidl thinks it is, because a starter kit in the Airfix range is actually specially designed, and this isn't specially designed to be beginner friendly. This is actually like a standard kit with stuff added, so it makes it a gift set. Let's look at the accessories first. We have a paintbrush. It's a number 2. It's a synthetic. It's from Humbrol, and these work fine. Not great for large areas and not great for fine detail work, but for everything else in between, they work okay. Paints, then, let's have a look. So, first up, we've got some poly cement. It says it's Hornby Hobbies, but it's probably Humbrol. And if we open it up, you can see that it is good to go. Yeah, there's a gel in there, so it's not the best cement in the world, but it works. And if this is your first introduction, you know, you could do better, but it will get your kit built. Then we have 4 paints. So 34 is a matte white, and if we have a quick look inside, it's starting to dry out slightly, but with a drop of water and a bit of mixing, I think that's going to be perfectly salvageable. 196 is like a light grey, and that one's starting to dry out as well, which is a bit annoying. So this pot design is meant to kind of prevent drying out. It's a different design to older kits that we've had. I mean, it's still liquid in there. It's going to just need a mix to revive it. It's just sort of separated out and congealed a little bit. 238 is like a red. Normally they would have used 19, but this is a slightly different red. This is more like a fire red rather than the other red I think I saw in the comic kit. That one's usable, it just needs a mix. And then 33 matte black is... that's good. That's good, no problem there. Just give it a mix and you'll be good to go. So I just looked them up. 196 is a light grey satin, and 238 is arrow red. So this is specifically, I presume, colour matched for the RAF Red Arrows. So that's pretty cool. Not just using the 19, which is a generic kind of gloss red. This moves us on to the instructions then. Information about the actual Hawk at the top. Contact address at the bottom for Hornby Hobbies. and then some icons down the bottom here of the different symbols we're going to encounter. Now, if you've built the Airfix Hawk, this is going to look terribly familiar, but it is worth noting that there are two toolings of the Airfix Hawk currently in the Airfix range. One of them is a starter kit specifically designed to be easy, and it comes with a shadowed display stand so you can pose it in flight. This is not that kit, and I kind of wish it was. This is their slightly older tooling. I mean, you could consider this to be the full kit because it comes with like more stuff, it comes with more options and things, but it's not necessarily as easy as the starter kit is. I built this one, it's fine, it works fine, but I did it in different liveries in the past. This is not right. Why have we started on here? We haven't started on here because we've got to turn it over. Not a fan of that. It just keeps folding out. Right, so let's start in a sensible position. Pilot figure gets painted, and then we build up our cockpit details. There's only one pilot figure included in this kit, which is slightly annoying because it's a two-seat aircraft, but that's the decision that Airfix made. We have the option to install landing gear in the raised or lowered position if you'd prefer, so you need to make this decision at this point because if you don't install it here, you're not going to be able to. If you are having it with the wheels lowered, you do need to install 5 grams of weight, but I probably would have had a little bit extra in the nose to prevent it from tail sitting. Add your exhaust pipe and join the fuselage halves together, sandwiching the cockpit, and then we add our air intakes and bits of the cockpit. Wings come in 3 parts which get glued together, and then we can add those other bits which go underneath the wings. Add all of these various elements onto the aircraft, so the wings go onto the fuselage, tail surfaces and cockpit canopy. Cockpit canopy does not have the option to be displayed in the open position, which is a little bit annoying, but it is what it is. However, the air brake does have the option to be deployed or retracted. We add our little extra fins. The wheels get glued together with their little landing legs, and then these get added onto the model with their support struts, and there are a few little extra details. If you'd rather have it in a flying pose, of course, you can do that as well. And we add our extra details. This does have, I think it's the smoke pod or something for the underside of the aircraft for the Red Arrows, and that is pretty much it. Yeah, it's not a complicated kit, it's fairly pleasant to build. I've built it a couple of times. There are a few little things I think around the cockpit. There was a little fit issue when I built it, but yeah, it's all right. This brings us on to the decals. Decals, we got one small sheet of decals from Cartograph, but they are printed to a lovely quality. I think it is missing that white band on the lower side, but I presume they left it off because otherwise they'd need to pay extra for a bigger sheet. This way you can see everything fits on this one. So I'll probably look at pictures of the actual aircraft and see if I can figure out where this white sort of stripe should be on the lower side, and maybe prime it in white first, then mask that, and then spray it red. Might be the best option. But all of the other stripes and things are done through the decals here. Printing is really nice. Cartograph do pretty good decals. Registration is good. They're not overly thick. There's no tears or blemishes. I don't anticipate there being any problem putting these onto the kit. So not bad. This then brings us on to the plastic parts. I'm not going to linger too long on this because, you know, as I've mentioned, I've built this kit a couple of times, so I have a good idea of what's inside the box. We have our clear parts in one separate bag, and they are pretty good. You can see we've got molded on the inside there the kind of explosive strip for the canopy for during an injection. We have our light, which goes, I think it goes on the nose of the aircraft, and that's a clear, it's almost like a separator between the pilot and co-pilot, and you have to paint the edge of that one. Yeah, so that's molded quite nicely. The framework is relatively proud, so you could mask that yourself by hand if you wanted to along the lines, but no open option is provided. Molding is okay. There are a few little blemishes in a few places and a little bit of waviness as well to the plastic, but for the most part the clear canopy is pretty good, and that's what you would expect from a kit from the mid-2000s. The rest of the plastic parts then, they come on 4 dark grey plastic sprues. Dark grey because that's currently the shade of plastic that Airfix is using, which does automatically date it a little bit to this time period that we're currently in. If we take a look at the fuselage, you can see that we have some nice recessed details. The panel lines, some people might say, are a little bit too thick, but I don't think they're too bad, especially when they taken a bit of paint. There's not much in the way of flash, but I would say be aware of the sprue gates because they're a little bit chunky, so that might need a little bit of cleaning up. Small details are quite nicely reproduced, and if we flip over to this side, you can see that we have a little bit of detail inside the cockpit wall. Ejector pins are on this side, but not on visible surfaces. Tiny little bit of flash to clean up, but for the most part, it has been molded quite nice and crisply. This sprue contains our cockpit details, our seats for our pilots, and landing gear and other components like that. Again, molded quite crisply, only a hint of flash in a few places which will need cleaning up, but yeah, for the most part, molded pretty well. Just be aware of those slightly chunky sprue gates. And on this sprue, we have our lower wing components with the same recessed details and actually some details inside the landing gear bays. Other components here, and also our pilot. Pilot's reasonably nicely molded. Will need a little bit of cleaning up because there is a bit of flash, but for the most part, pretty decent. And yeah, so there are some ejector pin marks on these surfaces which will need cleaning up, but I think they're not going to be particularly visible, so it shouldn't be too much of a problem. The final sprue then has our upper wing components as well. I don't know about this here. This looks very large. Is that how large it was? Must be how large it was. I don't remember it being that big on my other version that I did previously, but it must have been. It must have been that large. I just didn't notice it. We have our smoke pod, air intakes, wheels, and other smaller details. They've come out quite nicely. Again, quite crisp. Level of detail is quite nice. Bit of flash once again. Ejector pin mark there that just needs cleaning up. Yeah, so for the most part, quite nicely molded, fairly crisp. Level of detail is okay. Some small issues, a little bit of flash, a few ejector pin marks which will need cleaning up. But it is a far cry from another kit that was available in Lidl at the same time, which was this one. So this is a 1950s tooling, and it is nowhere near the same quality. So if you bought both of these as your first introduction to model kit building, this one is going to be like oh, this is not very good. I don't think I'll buy Airfix again. And this one, by comparison, is like, oh, this is actually quite good. If all Airfix kits are like this, then that'll be fantastic. So it's a bit of a mixed bag what Lidl decided to have in their shop for that time period. So yeah, let's round up. We had 1, 2, 3, 4 dark grey plastic sprues molded to a pretty nice quality. We had 1 clear sprue, which again is molded pretty nicely. There is a slight scratch across there, actually, now I've just noticed it, but hopefully won't detract in the finished build. 1 set of decals, which are printed to a lovely quality by Cartograph, but naturally doesn't quite reflect the paint scheme as accurately as it could. We have 1 set of instructions to the normal format from Airfix, which are relatively straightforward to open, but I don't like the way that this opens up. Just take your time to make sure you read it. And then we have some paints and accessories and things which are all usable, but will need a little bit of work just to revive them, perhaps a little bit, get them mixed up so that they're good to use. Personally though, because this is technically a gift set and not a starter set, you know, feel free to use any of your own paints if you want to, if you've got any of your own paints, or if you just want to rattle can it. Rattle canning would probably be my suggestion. Mask up the canopy, rattle can the whole thing, and call it a day. All of that came contained within this box, which I actually quite like the artwork on. I think it's quite cool, a bit reminiscent of the older Airfix style. So as I mentioned, it seems that this does have a tooling date on the box of 2011. Scalmate seems to think it's 2008, but it's around that same time period. This kit has been available a number of different times, quite consistently in the Airfix range. I have got this from the 2021 first and last Hawk edition, and I've also done the 2 NHS Hawks some time ago. Editing Matt here, just jumping in to discuss what I briefly put on the screen earlier about how I think I may have figured out what the tooling information sort of inconsistency is. So it seems that this actually did date from 2008, but at that time the tooling was designed in such a way that the wing fences came as separate parts, and you actually kind of had to modify the kit ever so slightly by cutting and then installing them sort of slid over the wings. It seems that from 2011 they had actually modified the tooling to have these molded on to the upper and lower wing surfaces, which is probably why Airfix says that this is a 2011 tooling, because that was when it was modified to reflect this change. So that's what I'd probably go with. I would say that this is accurate and it should be a 2011 tooling. Back to the video.
There are different versions of this kit out there which have different parts to represent this as the T100 or Mark 100 or what. Basically, there's a combat version of this as well, which comes with weapons. This isn't that version, but there are parts out there which come with this kit to replicate that if you wanted to do so. As I discussed, this is one different tooling to what the starter set tooling is in the Airfix range currently. If you wanted the Airfix starter kit one, that one is much simpler to build and comes with a display stand. And actually, if you wanted to get the starter set version from the Airfix range, it would cost you £11.99. This one in Lidl, at the time I was making this video, was retailing for £6.99. So actually, that's an absolute bargain based on what we've got inside the box. It's like almost half the price of what the starter set version would actually be. So at that price, I think it's a pretty good deal. And if you wanted to, you wouldn't even have to do it in this. You could come up with your own paint scheme and, you know, maybe even get a couple. It is a bit frustrating, actually, that you only get the one tail number. So if they'd included a couple of different tail numbers, then people could have bought, you know, the entire flight's worth of the Red Arrows. But, you know, I guess that's the decision that they decided to make. And with that, I think I'm going to leave this one here. Let me know down in the comments what you thought of my unboxing review and whether my assessment of this kit was fair. As always, don't forget that we do have a Model Minutes Model Club, and if you'd like to join the Model Club like these guys on screen and get exclusive access to early videos and other perks, check out the links in the description. Massive thanks to these Model Club members for the extra support they give me, helping to create consistent content. There are other ways to help support the channel if you'd prefer, and again, full information is below the video, but to support this channel for free, subscribe with notifications turned on so you never miss a modelling upload. Finally though, last thing to say is a massive thank you to you for watching this one, and I'll catch you on the workbench again next time.